Hello, it is Jack Gill, and welcome to Redmen Academy. Me and James have just finished recording a different video on Harvey Elliott. If you haven't watched that yet, make sure you go over and watch that. We've also been recording a video a day in the last few weeks during this quarantine madness. So go over and watch those videos. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. I wanted to have a chat today, James. Obviously, it's been a big talking point over the weekend and yesterday. The decision was reversed. But let's work through it in chronological order. Obviously, on Friday, Liverpool put their non-playing staff in under furlough, the government's furlough scheme. I spoke to Liam at the time when that video came out and said, obviously, I wasn't very happy with that decision. What were your initial thoughts about the furlough scheme and Liverpool placing the non-playing staff on there?
I was quite surprised because obviously I assume that we're a big enough of a business, and straight away I thought this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. We have the money. I'd rather we not spend in the summer if it means we can pay all of our staff. That should go without saying, really. We have the club has money, especially we have Champions League money. Everyone was talking about the pre-tax profits we recorded recently, but that was for the previous financial year. That didn't have an account Champions League winner money. Didn't have money from last season. So realistically, we should have, even more, than was announced. So it doesn't seem like it should have been an issue, really. But I know the club have cash flow problems now, but you'd expect that there'd be enough knocking around to, pay a couple of million towards staff, because it wouldn't be that much, really, surely.
My initial reaction, James, and I've said this on the main Redmen and Redmen news accounts in the last few days. Obviously, I felt as though it went against the ethos of the club, the ethos of the city, and the ethos of us as supporters. And that government furlough scheme, which I think is a good scheme for small businesses, but shouldn't be used and taken advantage of by big businesses like football clubs in the Premier League and companies like Weatherspoons and Virgin Atlantic and stuff like that. You have seen, and quite rightly, like they receive criticism. Liverpool absolutely deserve the criticism that it got. I also personally, James, didn't like the way the article was spun at first, where they're placed on the furlough scheme, but don't worry, we'll still be paying them 100% of their wages, when realistically Liverpool were just paying 20%, weren't they?
Yeah, everything about it stinks. There's no way that that can be spun into a positive, and they've had an absolute PR nightmare where I think recently the club have done really well to listen to supporters when they've made mistakes, but the silence after this for quite a few days was deafening, wasn't it? And you could tell that people were getting more and more wound up on Twitter. Our own fan base too. I think our own fans are more annoyed than anyone else, because it makes us look stupid, and it invites then the Hillsborough shouts, the more criticism, when that doesn't help anyone at all.
The annoying thing is, though, you mentioned that there's so much ridiculous stuff, and Twitter isn't anything to go off with any of this, because, like you say, so much unnecessary, ridiculous criticism thrown about after it, and they don't deserve the time of day. But what was needed to be criticised was this decision from the club, and like I spent last week criticising Tottenham and Newcastle for doing this.
Yeah.
Liverpool deserved it, absolutely deserved it. And, it's brilliant that we have such a good fan base that will, confront our own club and question our own club when they make decisions like this, just like they did with obviously the trademark in Liverpool and the season ticket prices. And both the club made U-turns on as well. So, James, Peter Moore obviously writes this letter and says in it, look, we are very sorry. We have made the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
How good does it make you feel? And listen, it's important, I think, here not to praise the club and give them a massive amount of praise, because they've made the moral decision in making this U-turn. But how important and how good is it that we are supporters of a football club that are willing to listen and change their minds?
It's reassuring that clearly we are being listened to and things are being taken on board. But even when you read the response, it doesn't feel authentic. It feels like we're sorry that it's being taken as badly as it is. We're sorry that we've been caught out, we've been criticised, and not we're sorry that this goes against everything at the club. the whole thing makes us look bad. Even the response doesn't look great, and it's going to leave a sour taste in people's mouths for a long time. And I know they've got a little bit of credit really back for going back on themselves for saying, you know, okay, we've listened, but it's going to take a bit more, I think, to sort of repair those bridges with the fans, because I think the fans feel a little bit betrayed that they've just not been listened to in the first place.
To be honest, I take it in a different way. You know, I kind of expected this decision to be made. I expected the U-turn, as I said before. I know I support a club that are willing to listen to supporters. I know we have brilliant things like the Spirit of Shankly, who, you know, wrote a letter and addressed the club and wanted answers straight away. And I thought Peter Moore and obviously everyone else involved with Liverpool would listen and would consider changing their minds. I think the way they went about it with the open letter and stuff like that was good. However, as I say, it's hard to praise them because they should never have made that decision in the first place. And morally, now they've done the right thing. I spoke to Ross about how actually you have this decision, but they may have furloughed staff thinking, actually, yes, the club can cope, but if we want them to reach the limits that we've been reaching in recent years, we could do that extra cash. So, you know, in their heads at the time, it may have been, oh, we're doing this for the fans, we're doing this for the club, but just not thinking about how bad it looks and, you know, not taking into account the criticism that Tottenham and Newcastle have received. However, I do think as well, the club deserves praise because now we might see Tottenham and Newcastle following suit with U-turn. And, you know, whilst, again, all three clubs shouldn't have made that decision in the first place, at least we've been the first club to show, look, we've ballsed up, but we will change our minds and we'll make it right. And, you know, hopefully Tottenham and Newcastle follow suit, James.
Yeah, I mean, it sets a precedent that, you know, it is possible for a club to come back from this and at least salvage some kind of reputation. So obviously it's difficult for the club because they haven't got any money coming in now, and they've still got massive wage expenses, you know, every single week that are, you know, in the millions and millions. But things come before football. Fans understand that other things have to take priority. I don't really care about signings in the summer. We got no one last summer, and we did absolutely fine this season. I'm not bothered at all as long as we do the right thing and we stick by what this city's built and what the club's built on. Then fans will completely understand. They're not going to be criticising the management for lack of signings or potentially a subpar season next year, because there's a reason why, and it's clear to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I've said throughout this, you know, and the government have unnecessarily criticised footballers at times, and it does seem like they're scapegoating a lot of things by putting the blame on footballers at times throughout all of this. But one thing that, you know, is important to remember throughout all this, and I say a lot, is after this, the world's going to change massively, and football needs to as well. And hopefully, in all cases, it's for the better. And, you know, there's a ridiculous amount of money in football. There's a ridiculous amount of pressure on footballers and ridiculous amount of games. And hopefully this highlights every negative, and hopefully now footballers get more of a say, because, you know, we've even seen throughout this, you know, Grealish makes a mistake, Kyle Walker makes a mistake, and it's on the front of every newspaper, it's all over Twitter, it's all everywhere, you know. But individual footballers are doing a lot of things to help people during this. Clubs are doing a lot of things to help people and the NHS during this crisis, and, you know, that's not getting picked up as much as the negatives that footballers does. And, you know, we saw it with Suarez at us. Every negative was picked up massively, but the positives aren't spoken about as much, you know. And it's the bad side of football, really. But everybody makes mistakes, and that's not saying that what people have done and what Grealish and Walker have done is right. It's absolutely wrong, and yes, they should be criticised for it, absolutely. But we saw with Jordan Henderson and everything he's done and the praise he's got, which is absolutely deserved. He's a fantastic man on and off the pitch. But every footballer that does good deserves the praise, because there are a lot right now giving up their wages and giving up a lot of money for this. And, you know, I saw something the other day, the West Brom CEO or something, chairman, something or other, has given up his whole wage during this crisis. And, you know, it just shows that there are a lot of people in football right now, James, doing amazing things to help people.
Yeah, I saw that my friend's a big Stoke City fan, and I know the chairwoman, I can't remember her first name, Miss Coates, I believe it is, donated £10 million to help, with the fund, the NHS buy personal protective equipment. So there are good people out in the football world, but as you said, it doesn't get picked up on. And it's hard for footballers because if they do it and it's publicised, it's, oh, well, they're only doing it for the press and their PR. But then if it's not publicised, they'll get criticised if people don't think they're doing anything at all. So I think the media have a responsibility to take things with a pinch of salt. And okay, if players don't want it published, fine, but don't criticise them for not doing anything just because you haven't seen it yourself. It's so difficult for players.
I also want to pick up on that 30% wage thing, James, because we've not really spoke about that either. And obviously, the thing is, obviously, the Premier League players were preparing to take that 30% wage cut. And then this furlough thing with Liverpool happens on the same day. I think the way footballers have gone about this and said what they want from this is absolutely perfect. And I know some people are like, well, they should take a 30% wage cut. But what they don't want is that going back to the owners. They want it going to do a good thing because actually, they're okay. They understand they're on a lot of money. It's not their fault that they're paid what they're paid, and at the end of the day, if they're giving up their wage, it should go to something that will really make a difference and not to billionaire owners.
Yeah, because the logistics of organising something like this is insane. Must be such a nightmare for the players and the fans, and to be able to come together and understand this, because fans haven't got a clue what's going on. The players have to try and organise this, whether that's through the clubs, whether it's through the PFA or whatever, and it's not going to be a quick fix at all. Players need to obviously get their contracts sorted out. How's this going to go out? Is it going to go from them once the clubs paid them, or is it going to go directly from the clubs before they get paid? It's not going to happen overnight, and I think people need to understand that. But it's obviously a positive step, isn't it? And 30% is going to do so much help for communities that are suffering and doctors and all these frontline workers.
Absolutely. Let us know in the comments what you think. Obviously, as we say, I think everyone knows that this is the moral decision now with the furlough being overturned, and Liverpool will pay 100% of non-playing staff's wages. Let us know what you think about footballers. Are they doing the right thing throughout this? And any success stories of footballers and what they're doing at the minute, we want to hear them. And we'll talk about them in upcoming videos. So let us know anything we may not know about the good that footballers are doing right now, and we'll make sure that that's heard. Cheers, James, again for this, and we'll be back tomorrow with a video with a different guest. So thank you and goodbye.